Do you need another minute? Do you need a minute?
I'm just printing off something and then
Okay,
good
cool.
to go.
But that something is not the first on the agenda, so start.
Okay.
Do you need a dauber? What is it?
Let's just close this.
The official gavel.
Yes.
Here's your gavel.
Beth, did you push start for us?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going.
Is it going?
Thanks, Matt.
So our annual meeting, May 11th, 2017, will come to order. Do you have an opportunity for resident comment at the beginning of the meeting?
Any residents with comments?
Residents with comments?
Nope.
We have one resident in the audience.
I have 2
And candidate.
Two.
A candidate resident.
All
Okay.
right, so we will go on. The minutes of the April 20th, 2017 council meeting, I think we've approved them online, and now it's just time to approve them here. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. April treasurer's report.
Okay, could I fold in the treasurer's report with the budget discussion, or?
If you would like to.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt will do the 2017 State of the Village.
Great. It was a pretty busy year. Just for reference, around this time last year, WSSC was still doing their water main repairs on Quincy. We were working with FEMA to get reimbursement for our very snowy winter. We were still sort of basking in the fun of the centennial celebration, which had taken place just a month or so before. So we've made some significant capital improvements in the village. So WSSC finally did finish its water main replacement. That being said, they are planning to return to do sewer main replacements on a couple of streets. After they had finished, we were able to do side work, curb, and gutter replacement throughout the village, so concrete work, as well as street repaving on a majority of our streets. The only streets that we didn't get to were Quincy, Chestnut, Thornapple, and about 2/3 of Raymond Street, which are the streets that WSSC is going to be coming back to do its sewer main work. We also made significant strides in terms of streetlight replacement project, which has been stuck in neutral and in the works for a few years now. And we signed a cost agreement with Pepco, and the lights are currently being built now, and we expect the work to begin in August. And Katya is going to have a more detailed report on that. We've also been working with Section 3 and the county to redesign the Brookville Road, Taylor Street intersection to make it safer. And over the winter, not a whole lot. I think we had to plow the streets one time. 2 or 3 times they came through to salt the streets. On the administrative side, we've also done a lot. We continued the village's commitment to formalizing all contracts. So we put out 6 RFPs, or requests for proposals, this year, 2 of which are now open. So right now we have the Graphic Interface System, or GIS, database update and maintenance up and open. So that'll be through mid-July. And leaf vacuuming, which we're going to try on a trial basis this autumn, with the option for additional years depending on the popularity and the success of it. So that's open through June. We also put out an RFP for the website, to redesign the website. So that's ongoing right now. We've seen some preliminary they're more interactive than photos, but basically preliminary designs for the homepage and a couple of the inner pages of the website. And we, of course, put out an RFP and selected AB Veers for the street repaving project, and a couple of our contract employees, the village arborist and the municipal operations code enforcement, we put out an RFP for that, and on both of those instances, we continued with Paul Wolf of Integrated Plant Care and Wayne C. Fowler of Blue Crowd Contracting, respectively. Let's see. Another administrative news, we've been working with state archives to implement the record retentions policy. I was appointed to serve as the village's representative for the Montgomery Municipal Cable Board, so the first meeting for that will be next week. And we put together a 2016 directory, so it's about a year old now. One of the new perks of the website will be hopefully to have a digital directory so we can have that continuously updated. And we collected and distributed the holiday fund checks to Waste Management. So I just wanted to say thank you to residents for your extraordinary generosity this year. We ended up collecting over $9,000 to disperse amongst our trash and recycling collectors, so that was a really generous and gift to them, and they were very grateful for that. In terms of events, we put on a really successful Halloween party, so I wanted to say thank you one last time to Keith Allen and Holly Worthington, two volunteers who really helped out a lot to make it happen. And I wanted to thank the election committee because they put on a couple of events, including the celebration on the sidewalk today and an open house at Matthew and Lauren Beal's house, so thank you as well to Matt and Lauren. Looking ahead, we've got some good things and not so good things to look forward to in FY18. WSSC is returning, as I mentioned, so that'll be frustrating. They should start work in August on the streets that I had mentioned before. Once they're done, we'll move on and actually repave the streets, so all of Martin's Additions will be repaved. There are still a few small things to do related to the repaving that we have done. We need to put down the thermoplastic markings on the street lines, stop bars, things like that. And once that's done, I spoke with Joseph Kutro, who's our traffic engineer, so we're going to start up with a sign inventory and make repairs and replacements on signs throughout the village, see if there are any places where we need to maybe more clearly mark things. For example, some of the streets maybe that are dead ends, maybe we might need more clear markings that there's no, that it is a dead end. Streetlights, as I said, Katya will expound on that, but we're anticipating the work to begin in August, so they're building them right now, so we're chugging along ever so slowly, but we're making some progress. As I said, we are working with Section 3 and the county to redesign the Brookville Road Taylor Street intersection. So they finalized the design, and actually it was kind of exciting because originally they were going to have a funding meeting in June to approve it, and they actually bumped it up to April. So we got the funding for the project, and according to them, they say it's their number 2 priority in the area. So around fall, that's when they're hoping it'll happen. Now, that's when they're hoping. Could end up being more like a year from now, but nevertheless, the funding's been approved, and I'm not entirely sure what the number 1 priority for them is, but we're number 2.
And when that will occur.
And why is it the number 2 priority is still going to be so many months out?
My guess on that is probably they got a backlog. They tend to work at their own pace. So, and then a couple of other events. We're doing a new wine tasting event at La Ferme in June. So there's going to be a selection of red wines, white wines, champagnes for folks to taste over there. And we're looking back into redesignating the city officially as a Tree City USA. And one of the things that is required to get that designation is to have some sort of Arbor Day celebration. So whether it's a festival, or they had a few different options that you can look into, like a writing campaign or an essay campaign for kids, or a lot of different options. But we'll have some sort of Arbor Day celebration hopefully in the next fiscal year as well. So that's kind of where we are and where we're heading.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Could I formally commend the manager for very successful completion of the street project? It took a long time, a lot of planning. The streets look great, and essentially we're done with it now, except for the ones that have to be done.
Except for the WSSC.
Yes, for the
But
next
it was relatively painless for the residents, and I've gotten a lot of very positive feedback.
Yeah,
So this is how mayors are won and lost. You fix the potholes, and the potholes are done on those streets.
we still have a couple of things on Raymond Street in particular that I think we're going to go through and identify some of the bigger potholes and fix some of those. So in the meantime, those people aren't left completely in the lurch. But thank you.
Okay.
I'm glad we worked with AB Veers, and I think I agree. I think they've done a really good job.
I'd like to echo Arthur's comments and say that your communication throughout the process was wonderful. So great job on that.
Okay. We'll go on to the FY 2018 budget and tax, so Arthur can...
Okay, well, budget and this month's report. This is the third time we will be discussing and presenting the budget for the coming year that begins July 1st. The first thing to note is that the property tax will remain as is. We are not changing it. Second thing, I just want to say for this third time we're talking about it, is the reserve fund. We have more than 2 years of undesignated money in the bank, and we are very aware that this is probably more than we need for a rainy day. And we are contemplating next year reducing the property tax to essentially zero, keeping a small amount on the books for emergencies if we have to raise it. Apparently it's easier to raise a tax than to create one from nothing. As of right now, this past month, I wrote checks for over $500,000. The biggest checks I ever signed for Martin's Addition for the streets and for the lighting. We're not done with the streets yet. Hopefully we are done with the lighting, and that is coming in at about half of what we originally thought. So those years of delay actually worked to our advantage in this case.
Silver lining.
The prices of LEDs have been falling by 20-30% a year. And from the time we first got estimates to the time we actually paid the bill, they fell another 50%. And so that was good. On the other hand, we're not finished with the road repaving. We still have streets to do and bills to pay, so we'll see how that comes out. So I think that kind of, in general, the village finances are in good shape now. The taxes, the income taxes are coming in higher than expected rates. Our expenses have been held well under control, and so we're ending up with probably another surplus this year. So no increase in taxes, more money in the bank, hopefully reduced taxes next year. That's the bottom line.
Okay, great. All right, project outlook for the coming year. So do you want to start with streetlights?
Sure.
Okay.
So after several years, we finally see the end at the light at the end of the
The
tunnel.
light.
At the end of the
The light at the end of the
The
tunnel.
LEDs at the end of the tunnel.
Years to use that.
That was awesome. So, as you know, we've set up sample lights. We've done plenty of studies on what best to install. We have surveyed village residents to collect their feedback. And finally, we've made a decision this past year. We've got quotes from Pepco, and ultimately the village settled on LED lights that are sampled still at 3525 Bradley Lane, if anyone is interested to go see that light again. So when we were going through the process, there was some concern that lights can be too bright and that they can mess with people's circadian rhythms. So this particular light that was selected was actually toned down so that it's not as bright as commercial lights, and it was fine-tuned for our narrower streets so that light doesn't shine in people's bedrooms. There's a skirt to protect the skies at night, etc. Obviously, LED lights also use significantly less energy than a standard high-pressure sodium light that is currently installed throughout the village. So there will be energy savings for the village in the long term. They also produce better lighting quality and become very inexpensive they have become much more inexpensive to make. So we were actually surprised to see how much cheaper the lighting bill is going to be than what we anticipated. We got quotes less than a year ago, and they were far higher than what we ended up paying at the end of the day. So that was great news for the village. So on March 29th, we finally signed off on the permit and for Pepco to contract a distributor, Hall of Fame, to create these lights. The creation takes about 10 to 12 weeks, and we expect Hall of Fame to finish producing these lights by about mid-June, and at that point Pepco will assign the construction team to come out and install these lights. The very first thing they're going to do is install 7 new light poles where we have the darkest spots throughout the village. In a couple of cases, the lights are actually going to be moved from one pole to another to eliminate these dark spots. And once that's done, by the end of August, we should start seeing installations occurring. So we are told that we should expect 3 hours per street light for installation. So if we have 1 or 2 teams going in, each team can only install 2 street lights per day. So it will take some time, but we should start seeing these installations in August. So all in all, I think that's great news. Less money, better lit streets, and this project is finally coming to a resolution.
End is in sight.
That's right, the end is in sight.
Good.
Great, thank you. Susan?
Okay, so about a year ago, Martin's Additions put out the request for proposals for bids on street and sidewalk repairs. We received multiple bids from several respected companies in the area. Ultimately selected AB Beers due to great reputation, price references, and quality of their work with Chevy Chase Village. After meeting with multiple contractors, we discovered that we needed to, that the planned sidewalk repairs that we had budgeted and planned for should have a larger scope. In other words, in order to be more efficient, we should take the opportunity to make all necessary concrete repairs throughout the village, including sidewalk panels, curb and gutter, and residents' concrete driveway aprons. Incidentally, the council has passed a policy to formalize the village's maintenance of driveway aprons to protect the integrity of the street and sidewalks. In the fall, the reparations and replacing of the concrete in the village started. About half of the village was completed last fall. The project was put on hold due to the winter, inclement weather, and was resumed in March, and completed in April. And over the course of the 2-week period from April 18th to May 4th, AB Beers completed the repaving project in the majority of the streets in Martin's Additions. 4 streets, unfortunately, were passed over this time around: Quincy, Raymond, Chestnut, and Thornapple, due to WSSC's continued work, but they will be due to work planned in the fall of 2017. And rather than paying twice for those repairs, the village opted to wait until WSSC has finished its work. And we do appreciate the patience of all the residents on those streets and can assure them, having been through the repaving, it's worth waiting for. The village has made 3 of 4 pavements to AB Veers for all the work. To date, at this point, the total is paid is $395,120, most of which was for concrete work. Anticipated costs for repaving, for which we have yet to receive an invoice, will be in the neighborhood of $400,000. Costs were defrayed by WSSC and Washington Gas reimbursements, which totaled about $260,000. And we anticipate, although we do appreciate too, we anticipate additional funds from WSSC after they've completed the sewer main work. And we appreciate the patience of the residents and their flexibility throughout the project. Although it was an inconvenience, we are excited that we have an almost finished project that we can look forward to completion
Thank you.
soon.
So those are the 2 big projects. We'll go back to the budget and taking action on the tax rates and on the budget ordinance. So can we do this together?
Okay.
So I need a motion to approve
Yes.
the tax rates and the,
We have 2, are there 2 ordinances here for the,
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
one for the
right.
budget and one for the tax.
so I move that we adopt the ordinance that has been presented 3 times now and discussed at 3 separate meetings, as presented. I move that we adopt an ordinance to adopt the budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017. This would be ordinance number 3-17-1.
Second.
What, anything else?
We'll do the resolution as well as.
Oh, and okay, I also move that we adopt a resolution number 3-17-2 to approve levying the property tax. And these property taxes are the same as last year. So I move both the ordinance and the resolution.
And I'll second both.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, that's taken care of.
So we can go on now, I guess, to additional resident comments and see if there's anything to the
Somebody
close
say
of the meeting.
Any comment?
We have to show some time now.
This is the quickest meeting on record.
I know. Now we know who slows them down, right?
So are we,
Never thought.
are we done?
Oh, well,
Should we keep the meeting open or adjourn?
Either's fine.
Let's
Do you
adjourn.
want to
Let's
check
adjourn.
and see where they are with the election results? And
Sure.
Yeah, that was a quick meeting. I'll check.
very quick. Well, we also,
Efficiency.
we didn't have resident comments.
Yeah.
So what do we,
No comment.
we're not adjourning, we're in recess.
Recess.
We're in recess.
Should I turn off?
Yeah, turn off for the recess.
Turn it back.
I haven't had recess since I was in 8th grade.
Did you say great?
Coming out of it.
Wait, hold on, Beth, is it back on?
The village is exempt from the space the state has about being the distance from the polls. Am I correct? Did I understand that?
The county imposes a 100-foot requirement regarding electioneering. The village could adopt a similar requirement if it wanted to, but the county provision does not apply in the
So
village.
we have no provision.
Correct.
Because for those of us that were giving out brochures this evening, it was very awkward that the polling place was at the corner and not the middle of the block. So anyone standing below the windows here was standing very close to where the polling was taking place. So that would bring it to the council's attention that there are no rules. And I understand that sometime in the past that people were giving out brochures at the voting table. So I don't have a proposal other than it would be really good not to have the polling place at the corner. The correct fix, I don't have a proposal for.
Yeah, I recall that we set up some informal procedure is 2 years ago to have a certain distance between electioneering, but there was,
And the
and the
designated
polling
tables.
place.
Right.
And the table, but there, nothing
was
was
not
written.
institutionalized.
It wasn't
Yeah.
institutionalized
We all
at
just
all.
sort of agreed that it
Oh,
would be
yeah, it
nice
was
to have
agreed.
to be
You're
at the folding
right.
table to be
Right,
formal,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Well, if the brochures are handed out from the voting table, that's a little much.
So maybe this is something to make sure the election committee knows for next
Yeah.
year and they can set it up in their
Or
procedures.
make a recommendation.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
That was too quick, Josh. You got 27 more minutes.
No, finish something else.
Figure it out.
Maybe we can get a weather forecast.
Yeah, there you go.
Keith, please, yes.
Keith, may I just say you missed the thank you while you were out there hauling out the canopies and awnings and things?
Well, by the way,
There was a
Dave,
thank you.
everything's done.
You guys are
By the way, done.
too good to us.
Sorry about the weather today. I try to do better on that next year. But Mother's Day is going to be beautiful.
Thank you.
That's all we
little
can.
windy, but beautiful day for Mother's Day. Okay.
All right, great, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith.
Okay, turn
Nick, you
to,
want to say anything about safety in the village?
Yes.
I can. I think we talked about maybe doing it next month, but I can certainly talk about it now if you like.
I've been talking
might as
about
well
it
Might
twice.
as well.
add it to the
Talking
record.
about it twice doesn't hurt us.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess there had been some discussion on the listserv in recent weeks about the theft motto increase that unfortunately we kind of see this time of year. And unfortunately, it's kind of 100% preventable because every one I looked at in this entire area of the county was from an unlocked car door. So every single one could be prevented. There were 2 cars stolen, not from the village, but from actual Chevy Chase, and both cars that were stolen had keys inside the car. I have no idea what's going on. Wait, remember. I have no idea what's going on.
Emergency? Is that the emergency?
Kind of
here?
preaching from the very beginning of the importance of locking car doors, not leaving spare keys in your car, kind of continues to be an issue now. I will say the increase discussed in the listserv notwithstanding, we certainly do have a lot lower numbers than other parts of the district and other parts of the county. Our crime, the statistics we look at are kind of like a week behind. So the most recent report I read was for the week ending May 5th, I believe, which had pretty negligible numbers. Prior to that, I think this district had, or this beat, so the beat that the village is part of, had 12. But of those 12, only 1 was in the village. So the numbers that are discussed in the listserv, I don't think people are reporting them to the police because the increase that I'm hearing about discussed and the emails that I'm forwarded from that don't reflect in the crime data. And I think an important thing to keep in mind too is the department will allocate resources and patrols and specialized units to areas based on the crime statistics that are reported. So it's important that if you are a victim of a theft or any crime, just beyond reporting it to listserv and calling the office, it's really important to file a police report as well because the department will allocate resources based on crime trends. I mean, it's just kind of the 21st century way of doing policing is kind of more just crime driven, and they allocate resources based on that. So, but I know it doesn't help if you're the person whose car was broken into to say this, but our numbers here are significantly lower than other parts of Chevy Chase in general. I mean, I think that one report I looked at, it was a map that had the 12 theft mottos plotted on them, and 1 was in the village, but there was 4 in like that neighborhood, like that block right across the street. There was 4 in that little block. So well, I don't pretend to believe that criminals say, oh, Martin's Edition, we're not going to go there, we're just going to skip over it. Like,
They don't know.
people at least, I think, here are beginning to do some proactive measures, locking cars and things like that, where there's not, the the same criminals are walking down the street and they're just not getting as many opportunities. So that's kind of the spiel I would have said next week with a little less preparation. So, any questions? And I know, I'm sorry, I know we're killing time, so I have one more thing. It was brought up last year, maybe 6 months ago. It was brought up to me again by a resident tonight that there's general concern, and probably more rumor, that people can break into a car or open a car remotely, and there's like technology that allows you to do that kind of a thing. And like I said last time, I've never in 15 years of policing seen or heard that. The other thing, I was talking to a colleague of mine about that issue like a month ago, and he made a very good point. If you look at what's stolen from these cars, right, they're stealing cash, like change, GPSs, for people who use GPS still, easy passes, if somebody forgets like an iPad or a laptop in a car, that's what's being stolen, right? So if somebody has a technology that would allow them to open a car like that kind of sophistication, they're not going to be stealing that sort of stuff. Like they're going to take your whole car, put it on a shipping container and ship it to Eastern Europe. It's not going to be this kind of like low sophistication kind of theft. So the adage I would kind of use would be like wearing a seatbelt. Like, yeah, maybe somebody can break into your car remotely with an electrical device. That still doesn't mean you don't lock your car door. It's like, yeah, you're a good driver, but wear your seatbelt because everyone around you is not necessarily a good driver. Same kind of rationale. Yeah. So that piece of technology notwithstanding is probably being non-existent. Doesn't matter. Still lock your car.
Is there any kind of statistics on neighborhoods that may have cameras installed? Do they have lower incidents of break-ins?
So I was asked that question today as well about cameras. I don't know. So the department has a very robust automated traffic enforcement program with like speed cameras and traffic cameras. I don't know of any municipalities that have, in Montgomery County, that have surveillance cameras installed by the government agency. The places that do are like super high crime areas, like parts of Baltimore City and DC that have like the Crime Spotter cameras. So I don't know of any jurisdictions that use camera surveillance, and I think more of a discussion, I think, for a policy matter for the board is, to what extent does that put us in, or put the village in, like, where you're having an automated surveillance kind of program implicated by and that's beyond what I think I have.
I'm just simply posing
But in general, as far as numbers go, I don't think there is one in the county. I'm often asked, because my full-time job is in charge of the homicide section, so people always ask me, well, there's traffic cameras, can't you go back and look at those cameras? Like when you look on TV, you see those traffic cameras. Those aren't recorded. Those are just live streamed. So the cost to store that data is insane. So those are just like CCTV kind of cameras. So very long answer to your question is there really is no number because there is no jurisdiction here that uses them.
Okay.
Interesting.
But there's nothing keeps a private citizen from installing a camera in their house, which kind of on the same guise as, for the same reason why LED streetlights are cheaper now, home surveillance, high definition cameras are, a third the price that they were even 5 years ago. So nothing, and investigatively, it is very helpful. Like, it's part of our procedure. If we have a violent crime like a homicide, we always go back to that neighborhood and we go door to door, and the first question we ask is, hey, you don't happen to have a surveillance camera here, do you? And almost 1 in 20 people will have, which not like a lot, but a street that has.
A good amount of village residents have those cameras now, because as I walked the streets in the last couple of weeks, there were a lot that I thought it was a doorbell, but it was actually a camera.
Yeah.
Oh.
And one nice resident actually informed me, you're talking to me on a camera and in my car.
Oh.
And I was blown away.
And those are, it's cheap. It's way more expensive than a doorbell is, but comparatively speaking, like the $300 investment is pretty.
Right. I have one anecdote on that. My daughter lives in San Francisco, was having her New York Times stolen from in front of her house, and her downstairs neighbor was having her, grocery deliveries stolen. They put in a camera, and they saw the people. They had pictures of them. All they did was printed, this would probably violate someone's privacy, but they printed a picture and posted it in front of the front door and on the front post, and they stopped. The thefts immediately stopped.
Couldn't we just build a wall?
I think we'd probably have to raise taxes to do that, though.
Do you have results?
We'll find a way.
Do you have results?
No, I checked on their estimated time, and it's they finish with the regular ballots, they have to do the absentee and then probably do another check, so it's half an hour, 40 minutes,
Okay.
give or take.
Okay,
So we could
anything
do
else?
open mic?
Or we could go into recess.
Yeah, let's go into recess.
Does Beth have any more wine?
Yeah, I move.
Josh, did you have another comment? Hold on,
Well,
Josh.
I have a question for the officer if we want to go there. In DC, I thought it was kids that broke into the cars, but here, I mean, local neighborhood kids. Do you have enough arrests to have some profile of?
So when arrests are made, they're generally not local residents. They're usually from DC and or Silver Spring, Wheaton area. I wouldn't say necessarily. I wouldn't say kids like they're 15, 16-year-old kids, though they can be. Usually it's 18 to 22-ish, 25-ish age.
And they come into Chevy Chase because and go through cars?
You're right. So they come up here because for a couple of reasons. One, there's quick access to like Bethesda area with public transportation, metro, things like that. And then if you think about the neighborhoods here, the houses are close together. So I mean, drive down a street here at 2 o'clock in the morning when everyone's home. It's literally there's no place to park on the street. The driveways are full. You can get access to 300 cars in a mile-long stretch. So what you often will see happen, and one of the reasons why it happens here so much is you'll have a group of people will come up here. They will drop off like 5 individuals at the end of a street, and then they will walk down the street together or on 5 parallel streets. They will try car doors they walk along. If 1 in 20 or 1 in 30 is unlocked, that's still 8, 9, 10 cars they may get into. Maybe nothing is going to happen to them, but if they get something, at the end of that block there's a rendezvous point where they all will get into like usually a stolen minivan. And how long would it take you to walk down a half mile of the street? 20 minutes. So in that 20-minute period of time, they may have tried 300-400 cars, and in 15 minutes they're gone. So unless you happen to be there at the time, you're not going to catch them in the act. So.
Now, what about, we've also heard about ringing the doorbells, see if anybody's at home at night. Is this a common practice? Or?
So there was actually a trend, not so much down here, but I had heard of a trend more like Potomac area, where there was a group of one particular group of burglars was doing that. They were ringing the doorbell. If nobody answered, they would come back around the same time the following day. They would try it again, and then if there was not a response the second time, then they would try a daytime break-in. They believed it was a particular group of like 2 or 3 because a neighbor had saw the same lady ringing a doorbell around the same time, so they kind of thought it was the same group. They hit like 2 or 3 houses, and then they haven't been heard from since. So I'm not sure if that was more anecdotal or not, but that does happen totally.
So if someone rings the doorbell at 2 o'clock in the morning, you should open it?
No, flash your light, turn on all your lights, make sure people know you're there.
We're gonna get them wired.
I guess at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm gonna say 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 2 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't answer your doorbell. I don't answer my doorbell for anybody, and I'm a cop with a gun. So 2 o'clock in the morning, I would just be like, no, I'm not answering.
But you want to turn lights on to let people know you're there.
But the 2 in the afternoon ones are
So that's my 2 in the
casing.
afternoon.
Yeah. But 2 in the morning is more pranks, and is there any sort of trend with that?
Then you send me an email. There was somebody who had rung a doorbell in the middle of the night. I don't know of any burglars who were doing that sort of thing.
It seems kind of brazen.
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive.
Stupid, yeah.
Nighttime burglaries are the lesser common because the risk is somebody's going to be home. Daytime, you're more likely to be seen, but you're less likely to be caught. And if you really think about it, in the day, if you pretend to be like a construction guy or a
utility worker,
landscaper, neighbors like this, no one's gonna really look twice at a guy walking around with a landscaping jacket on or something like that. So daytime's more common when you see them. Nighttime is when you really get kind of scared of them because they don't care what's going on.
Interesting. Okay.
What about the stop sign running?
Stop sign running.
Taylor's really bad. Both Delafield and Chestnut intersections with Taylor. Cars, I would say I'd see at least 6 or 7 a day, more on weekends.
Right.
That aren't stopping at all.
Yeah, I think it's an issue in it's an issue all across the village, all across the county. I mean, stop sign violations are pretty severe, or there are a lot of them. We do take enforcement when we see these violations, like, oftentimes they are residents that go, it's usually the resident that's been to that stop sign 100 times is the one who's less likely to stop. We do take enforcement action when appropriate. It does happen. Unfortunately, it's a sign. It's not a wall. So you just kind of people have to stop if they choose to.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some of that intersection's got dozens of kids that live and play in the street. I mean, we do wait till they get hit.
Well, so I will say one of my previous assignments, I ran the collision reconstruction unit, so I handled fatal traffic collisions. I am always very wary when I see children playing in the street. I mean, I think the streets are for cars, not for playing. So, I would say that it only takes one car. It's a high traffic neighborhood. There's a lot of cars that come through here. So we can take enforcement when we see an action, but at no place in the county that people would put a police car at a stop sign for 24/7 because of the resources that don't exist. So it's not a perfect answer, but that's the truth.
Okay.
I have another one.
Josh wants to keep going. Or we could recess, just saying.
Let's recess.
I have a lot, and I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad you're here.
I have the impression from our listserv that Taylor Street has a lot of break-ins just over the past 10 years.
Okay.
My impression was that the bad guys were parking here behind the commercial area and then going down till their hands are full, or however that works out. So there was some discussion of putting cameras around the commercial area to capture many license plates. Would that have any value for the police?
Yeah, I mean, surveillance video always has value. But the whether or not that's what's happening, I don't think the data really supports that happening. Because when I look at the map, like, you look at a map and you see 8 or 9 theft from autos, right? You see kind of go down a line, and I don't necessarily see it as being a line contained within the boundaries of the village. I more see it be like Connecticut Avenue through like Leland Street, or kind of a longer street, for that very reason. It's like they're not gonna drop somebody off on a street that only goes 2 blocks. Taylor's a long street, so you have the ability to walk down a very long distance. That's the thing with Bradley. You have a very long street, so you can walk down a whole long street. Surveillance cameras are always helpful. So I never tell somebody don't put in cameras, but there's other issues that go along with it too. Like, all right, how accessible? How long is the video maintained for? How long? Who is the maintainer of the hard drive, and who gets access to that? Like, how do you get access to that? And, a random detective who walks into the market and says, "Hey, do you have surveillance cameras?" Does the person there know who has them, where to get them? So having them is one part of it. The data and the accessing of the data is another thing. So yeah, I would never say it's not helpful.
Officer Nick, what if there are key intersections where there are repeat break-ins, and if you had a camera there that could just track movement, wouldn't that lend help to police?
The honest answer to your question would be yes. A surveillance camera would be helpful to police. Whether
I'll give you like one example. Okay, so my neighbor, my next door neighbor, I don't want to say the name, but they have 6 children. Okay, their car has been broken into multiple times, and bikes have been stolen. And anybody who's had 6 children knows it's probably chaotic. The poor woman parks on the street. She doesn't unlock. She probably doesn't lock the car every time she brings in another bag of groceries, schleps it back and forth, back from her on the street to the house. I mean, I know that's common sense stuff, like lock your doors. But I'm just saying that if we have this, I live on Taylor Street. And my neighbors are really concerned by these break-ins, and we're affected. And I know nobody else here lives on Taylor Street, and you all don't know, okay? Point blank. And yes, you're telling us to lock the doors. We lock our doors incessantly, but sometimes, you know, your kid, you're carrying something, you're walking in, and that's when they're striking. And it's bizarre, and we need to get to the bottom of it. And like one house is targeted all the time. And it's been like 6 or 7 times right now. I don't know if they're reporting it. I've told them go to the proper channels. But what do you do when you have a small child, you're a woman home during the day, you're carrying all of these things, and it just seems to be interesting that there's this pattern.
Well, Murphy's Law will always say that if it can go wrong, it's going to go wrong. So the one day you don't lock your door is the day that...
Well, sure.
Right,
I know Murphy's Law.
But it also could be, too, that somebody may have tried your car 8 times and you locked it there 8 times. But the 9th time you don't is when they have to come through. So,
right.
You know, I had to reiterate that the idea that, you know, it's kind of like the seatbelt analogy. Like it's the idea that you have to be proactive in your own defense, even though people shouldn't be breaking into your car. The one thing you can do that almost will guarantee no one's going to take your stuff is by locking your car door and remembering to do it. And you know, I think everyone nowadays every new car has remote access. So you get inside, just make sure you hit your lock button. Hope you see your flashing, you know, lights, and you know, that is what it is. Nothing like I said before, nothing prohibits somebody from installing a camera system in their own house. That you're allowed to do that. Like the Ring device that the doorbell device. I think they're like $300 or $400. And it not only does it record when someone hits a button, you get a ring on your phone, and you can talk to the person through your phone app. But it also, because a friend of mine has it, he gets text messages when motion detectors go off in front of the house. So somebody comes up to the house and drops off a package, he gets a little thing saying, "Oh, someone's at my front door." And if you're not expecting it, then it raises some suspicion. So there are proactive things that you can do. You know, yes, it would be the detective in me will tell you, yes, it is very helpful. It would be helpful in a world that we have cameras everywhere because that would track everyone's movements and that detective in me. But whether or not that's the best policy to have, that's not my decision to make.
Well, so Arthur, we own the village owns the streets, right?
Yeah.
You know, and this generally has an easement up to the sidewalk or something, and owns the sidewalk too, right?
Up to what you think is your front yard.
Yes, beyond the sidewalk usually.
Beyond the sidewalk. So where the cars are parked, other than in driveways, if they're in the street, that's village property. So the village could not, I realize Montgomery County doesn't do this as a matter of normal practice, it's probably actually pretty expensive. The village could mount a handful of cameras.
And that's why I was asking to see if there's any,
is like,
you know,
actually
data
not,
on that.
The data storage is not burdensome. If you did every red light in the county, it'd be expensive, but if you do 5 cameras, it's probably $20 a month or $10 a month of storage. So you could do that. You could also buy, I know the guys who own the company who make most of the cameras for the red lights. It's interesting. The reason what they do is they give them for free to police departments throughout the country in exchange for the data. But what they're doing with the data is they're tracking delinquent car loans. It's like the repo man. They do license plate scanning, find it, and they can figure out where you are, and then they go and find the car. But you can buy the data from the company. Anytime there's a stolen car that goes through Bradley and Connecticut. And maybe if that happens, it sends an alert. And Beth wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, that calls the police, and they go to Taylor and park out. I don't know. I mean, there are ways you can do it. It just costs money.
And I think there were the issues that Mike raised about maintaining the cameras, maintaining the records of them, and then what is your schedule, who has access to it. It's not just the physical hardware that's involved, but the whole set of additional policies.
You can store a month back of history. I can do it with my Nest cameras at home. I think it's $1.50 a month.
Right.
So for a commercial version of that, it might be $10 a month.
You can definitely look into it.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is you could sort of avoid the privacy issues by just having the camera domain look at the property of the village owns.
But
Well-
even
It's straight.
Yeah.
just, however, the age of the folks captured also has implications, even in the public domain. So
Yeah.
just,
It's
And
true.
there has to be rules about access, who has
Do I
access
have to
to the
move all my camera in
information.
my house?
they're in your house, so they're on.
So you're okay. As someone who works
But it may be,
with
it is,
concerns.
You can't film minors, is that the issue?
I don't know.
Then it goes back into who has access, how is it stored, how is it transferred.
It's solvable.
Not problems that many agencies around the world have solved, but larger than just the nest, which,
Well, it's something to, I think it's something that we
Yeah.
might consider.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The first one's going from Tiffany's house, just as a trial.
sweet. I can find my
I
children.
just don't extend it to mine.
That would be tough.
When you have to get the New York Times in the morning in your pajamas, we're going to say that.
Probably not.
We could just put a
delivered to
camera
my
at the
house.
every entrance to the village, and then if there's car break-ins, pull up the footage from right around where the break-ins are. Right? Someone entered the village.
Unless it's your neighbor.
Well, yes, yeah. But we're probably making an assumption that's,
There are unintended consequences, I'm sure. Somebody's mistress shows up. Or something.
Not mine.
Not in
I told her
VMA.
not to.
Anything else while we're still on the record here?
I have one more, which is probably good that it's on the record. I noticed that Section 3 has the same budget we do for their police. Do you work for them as well? No.
Only here.
And if I have it right, you work 5 hours and the other officer works 5 hours?
Correct.
So one thought that occurred to me is we could double the number of hours that we have if Section 5 in Martin's edition said, while you're patrolling, why don't you go through Section 5 too? And they would say the same to their officers, and then we would double, or would go from 10 hours a week to 20 hours a week. But is that practical?
I guess I would leave that question to the board for certain reasons. I mean, the answer to your question, the honest answer is it possible? I don't know. I'll leave that. Yeah.
Would it dilute, Josh, is the question you're asking, does it dilute your enforcement capabilities to have that
Of a gray
additional
area.
jurisdiction?
And I don't know how big that section is. I don't know the officers who work there. I may know them. I don't know off the top of my head who the guys who work there are. I think one of the values that we bring here, that Sergeant Pratt and I bring, is accessibility. Like, when, there's a question from the board, they go to Matt contacts me, I can get you an answer, I get you the crime stats. So it's more like the community policing officer, like the police officer on retainer, basically the person you can ask questions of and run things by and attend your meetings and stuff. If you bring in another jurisdiction, you lose, I think, that ability to reach out to the person individually. It's all my own view of it. I think as you get, it's kind of the idea of as you get bigger, you have, where do your loyalties lie? Like, I'm employed by the village. If I have similar questions from the other section, am I going to be responsive to them? Well, I don't know. They didn't hire me. I'm being hired, so I don't know. As asking Nick the question, I'd prefer not to do that. I like just having my own little enclave and have the relationships I have here. It's taken me long enough just to figure out where all the streets are to memory. So add a whole other jurisdiction to it. I'm probably not as good at my job, but that's not a decision for me.
Just to finish the thought, Section 5 is really small.
I'm sure it is.
Across the street.
But it does dilute.
It does dilute.
And if you're doing it crosswise, you're getting double dilution.
Well, you can take, for the same amount of money, you can go from 10 hours a week to 20 hours a week.
But no, you don't, because you're getting half the coverage.
Well, there's that. Anyway, I thought, since we had this opportunity, I thought we'd float it.
Okay, good.
Oh, Officer Nick, just your opinion, not statistical research, I think. What do you think about increased police patrolling in the middle of the night?
So when the program was first started, one of the things behind it was we would have that two of us would have the ability to work the hours we felt was appropriate for a couple things. One for our schedules, because the hours we work and the time we spend for our full-time jobs and our families, and also to have the ability to pick and choose when we work, to combat crime trends, to be unpredictable, to not follow a certain pattern. So the hours we work are constantly in flux and change. So when you say middle of the night, we work both middle of the night, daytime, that's what we're on all times. Increasing the hours, I actually had this conversation with Mike a couple of weeks ago. He would be willing to work more hours. I am probably personally pushed to about as much as I can do with my as we talked about my other stuff I got going on in my life. So I am pushed to about as much as I'd be willing to do. I know Mike said he'd be willing to take on more if it was offered to him, and there's always the option as well if you wanted to add a third officer. We could facilitate that. I'd probably say Mike could handle more if you were to give it to him, and much. I wouldn't want to speak for him to how much more he could take.
Let me add to this that when we first started considering this, we went through all of the things that Nick is saying, and it turns out that bad people usually do their things when the cops are not around. And given the very, very low rate of criminal activity in the area, adding additional patrols probably is not a cost. In purely cost-benefit terms, is not effective. What is effective are the kinds of responses that when you see a pattern, when people report in and patterns can be established, knowing that they're working these streets at certain times of night, you can put somebody out there then. And so when we were first considering adding police to what we do in the village, a number of residents raised the point that this does not make sense in a cost effectiveness sort of calculation. And they were absolutely right. We weren't going to be stopping any crime, but it does make people feel better. And we were buying some peace of mind, whether or not that peace of mind was warranted. And so this is, I think, the main thing we're doing. Plus, the liaison we have with some very experienced policemen. Not only is he a cop, he's a lawyer. He has an enormous amount of police experience, ties with the county, and so we are tapping into a much broader range of activities than just having two guys walking the street a couple of hours a week. So I think the skill, the experience, the links, the liaisons that this has brought, I would say is probably has cost benefit, does stand up to cost benefit scrutiny, even though he's not going to catch anybody in the act of breaking into a house. So the question of whether additional police patrol would add anything more, from my understanding, it would not add that much. Having the presence that we have now not only brings some peace of mind, but also probably brings access to a much broader array of resources. Would you agree? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, when we first started, I think one of the things I kind of touted was 10 hours a week is 7% of a week. So we're here 7% of the time. And I would 100% agree with what Alexander said. I think that we bring access, and we bring connections, we bring availability for data, answer questions, and peace of mind. And like I said, I've been asked before about the number of arrests we've made, and I think there was one time a year ago where a guy was walking through a lady's neighborhood. She called the police. I happened to be working, and by the time she called and the time that he was found, he'd already walked through the whole village and was in Chevy Chase. We got into a foot chase with the guy. He ended up being being intoxicated, lost, and it was crazy. And we got into a foot chase. It was kind of fun. We had to chase the guy for a couple blocks. It was cool. But that's kind of the extent of the policing. I've worked busier beats in my career than the village, which is good. But I think Mr. Alexander is right. What we bring is access, and we bring connections, and we bring peace of mind. And I can come to a meeting every few months, come to a meeting, and answer questions. And
when the call goes in and you happen to be on the beat, you hear that call.
Yeah, so we listen to the radio, we monitor calls as they come in.
Right.
I'm here, that 7% of the time that we're here, yes, we answer calls that come in the village. If it's a major event that happens in the surrounding area, we'll go to it because, if someone's in a serious car accident on Connecticut Avenue, we'll go to it because we may be doing life-saving measures until fire rescue gets there. But yes, we monitor calls, we do respond to calls, but like I said, we do not replace a 911 response because 7%.
I think we have results.
We have results.
Will the chair?
We could, Arthur, before we leave this topic, we could do some village dogs. And we could address the dog park issue at the same time.
We could wrap it all in with the wall, the dogs, everything.
Well, the dogs, you don't want the dogs to escape. So you need the wall.
Those dogs are not cheap. Okay.
Okay,
Marty, let me get my laptop. See
here's your laptop.
Let me know when y'all are ready.
Yeah?
Some of you've been ready, I know. The Martin's
Now
Additions.
explain that.
Thank you.
Martin's Addictions Election Committee is very pleased to report that despite the rain, our residents came out in grand style. We had a total of 244 ballots cast. 57 of those were returned absentee ballots, and 187 ballots were cast in person in the rain this evening. I knew a little rain wouldn't daunt us. The total number of votes counted was 435. Some ballots only voted for one person, some voted for two. And the results are as follows. Richard Krajek, 148 votes, Katja Hill, 147, and Katie Filipchik Howard, 122. It was a well-fought race. I think there was a lot of good campaigning, and we commend and congratulate all of the candidates on running a very, very good campaign here. We had 18 write-in votes.
Thank you.
2 for Paul Weller, 1 for Ben Dunford, 3 for, I hope I say this right, Haley Sofer, 2 for Chris Schrader, 4 for Gene Spurley, 1 I'm embarrassed to say for me, and I didn't cast it. 1 for Amy.
I had your back, Marty.
1 for Amy Grant, 1 for Eric Corsten, 1 for Mike Zielinski, 1 for Elisa Bean, and 1 for Chelsea Sullenberger. Again, I commend everyone on a wonderful election campaign and congratulate those who won. It was a well-fought, friendly, clean election this year, and I'm very proud to have served as your election committee chair. And I would like my election committee members to please stand for some recognition.
Thank you.
And congratulations to the winners and the losers.
Next year.
Thank you so much.
I will write up the report. If you
Here's my
have
limit.
any questions?
That's what I heard.
We'll include it in the minutes of the meeting as is our tradition, but you guys are going to do a separate
Yeah, I'll email it to you like I did last year.
Perfect.
And then we'll ask the staff to please
post.
send it out tomorrow after councils have vetted. And I would be entirely remiss if I did not stand here and praise the staff for their extraordinary efforts this year.
Yeah.
And the rain put a bit of damper on it, but undaunted.
Not much.
Not much. The turnout was really superb. And it outdid our expectations. So kudos for the staff.
It was actually more than last year.
It
I
was
happen
more.
to have written down here.
Yeah, we had 228
Yeah.
total ballots last
Right.
year and 244 this year. And
impressive.
it's a real compliment to Martin's Additions that people turned out the way they did. And it's a compliment to those who campaigned because local democracy matters. Thank you all very much.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
I just want to add that we also collected some names for volunteers to do some committees.
Oh, good.
And there's already garden walk and discussion and a way of getting the kids involved in adopting a street or adopting a block. So there's a lot of stimulated interest in a new generation of activists in our community.
Good.
Great.
Right. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
So with that, I believe we can adjourn. Is that correct?
Thank you.
What, let's wait to Steve. You have anything?
Marty,
Thank you for all your hard work.
we had some updates to the voter rolls. Okay with you guys, I'm gonna share the electronic version of that, and then to the extent there are additional voters in the written rolls, we can get them to Beth and Matt so that you guys can update the voter rolls for next year. We
Absolutely.
had some
And
new
I have
kids
the
and some
written
new-
version, so I will call you guys. Okay.
Great.
Good,
Thank you, guys.
Are we
Adjourned.
adjourned? The official ballot, the official